What's going on, gamer? So, Digital Foundry has an interesting video here I thought I should highlight and share. They said no, Xbox hardware isn't dead, but big changes are coming. Basically, this is about understanding that the traditional hardware is gone, and Digital Foundry 100% says that in their mind, they don't see how it can't be an Xbox PC. And I agree with them, you know what I mean? Definitely with everything going on. I think that's kind of like the thing to finalize is that it's not going to be a traditional model. There's no way that they could possibly even want to do that again. It doesn't make any sense. It has to be a PC. So in here, we're going to find that out. We ready to get into this? All right, y'all, let's go. Here we go.
Think it's quite clear that Microsoft is continuing to ship hardware, but a lot of the hardware they have in the future comes from probably third-party OEMs. Obviously, with the next generation Xbox project, that is very much a project that continues to exist, but like it doesn't really look much like Xbox hardware has up until this point. Basically, it looks like Windows machines with different levels of accommodation towards features like backwards compatibility, not consoles, or at least not traditional consoles, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the question is like, they continue to exist in the hardware space, but is that a really strong hardware vision? Like Laura Fryer is kind of laying out here, was the vision behind the original Xbox was part of the Xbox 360, which she was around for? Or is that more of like a typical kind of Windows-ish morass of a bunch of undifferentiated hardware, some OEM-led, some Microsoft-led, with varying degrees of support and stability, right? We see this in the Windows space with Surface devices, where Microsoft participates in the Windows ecosystem, but they aren't necessarily the only ones in that ecosystem. They are one of many players in the ecosystem. Whereas I think with like the Xbox, traditionally, with the last 4 generations of Xbox hardware, it's been a pretty strong vision. Here is an Xbox Series X. We're going to support it for a generation. It has a console OS. It has exclusive games, right? Not anymore, but it did at the time when they were pitching it. It
Yeah.
will go toe to toe with PlayStation with competitive pricing. This isn't that, or at least to some degree, it's not that. In significant ways, it's not that vision. But I think
Yeah, 100% agree with them. I think the series basically gave them all the answers they needed for that, for what they tried to do and what they wanted to do. And then they realized what the future is on top of like just massive third party publishing. You know what I mean? Like and like I said, in order to sync what they're trying to do, it has to be like a Xbox PC. You know what I mean? So I don't see it being any other route. I think we pretty much say that this is what it is just by understanding why. And we'll watch more of this and we'll have that unfold as well, and I'll see that before our eyes.
that is a meaningful shift away from what Xbox hardware has meant in the past.
Yeah.
They will obviously ship something. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I would be very, very surprised if they did choose to cancel kind of the main thrust of this project, even if they are canceling projects
They
like,
got
or at
money.
least putting on hold, projects like the first-party Xbox handheld. But over the medium to long
That's a little bit different. With the main console, no.
term, I think that is probably really diminishing what it means to ship Xbox hardware. And I think it is kind of a maybe even a slow exit from the hardware business, if not just a diminishment of their role within the hardware business for consoles and gaming boxes in general.
Yeah. John, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this new model shifting towards more of a Windows-centric device is the only way forward at this point. Like, why would you release a closed, subsidized style console at this point as an Xbox?
Doesn't make
Given
sense.
everything that they've done in the last year, it makes zero sense.
It doesn't.
And frankly, I think
Yeah.
to gain the most support, it would behoove them to have Xbox versions essentially be adjacent to PC versions in terms of development resources,
But cheaper.
because they've already made it clear that there's nothing. Xbox is just, well, it's everything apparently, but also like having a dedicated box that runs a different OS like the current Xbox does, that just adds more work for developers, and there's not really any reason for consumers to embrace that at this point. If they're not doing anything unique or special about it, it just becomes well, it's convenient to have a dedicated box on the TV
But I got my
that runs
PC.
Game Pass, but a PC can do that too.
Yeah.
So it does feel like this customized Windows-based experience is probably the way forward for them.
I agree with them. And the way to stay relevant, since Microsoft has a lot of money, though it depends on how in the daily abuse things, is to give people a good deal. Like if you wanted to get a PC for this deal, and it'll probably cost you 1,400, you could probably get that for like 900 or 800, something like that. I think that that's what they're trying to do. And they'll probably keep it updated because it's not a traditional console. There's probably different ways of, doing the mid gens every 4 years or something like that, and they're just selling like luxury products and stuff like that. I think that's kind of the route that they're probably going to be going. You know what I mean? And they'll be able to sync and do everything a PC will do, and they'll give the Xbox community the ideology of yes, this is a PC, but at least it has some Xbox aspect, and you can get these games like that. So it feels like a console's like that, but it's a PC though. You know what I mean? And we just need to be aware of that. Same thing with the ROG and all that other stuff, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a big deal. You just have to accept the route that they're going and realize they're not going to change it. That's what we want to understand.
Yeah, the traditional Xbox model.
Yeah,
I would imagine it's probably not going to come back. And if it did, that would be a gigantic mistake, I think.
correct.
Right now. Like there's just the market's not there for it anymore. They squandered that. And it's been tough. And it's such a shame though when you look at the Xbox Series X is such a good machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like it never really got to take off, so to speak.
Yeah. Like I said, this generation was half baked with a lot of unfinished broken products, stupid politics. The Unreal Engine 5 was never fully complete. You just had all these games where it's like, yeah, it would have been nice if they were optimized and finished, and the hardware was actually taken advantage of. But because of the way things worked, Sony got full priority. I mean, just when you just think about it in general, and then they're talking about a new generation, that's why I was like, finish this first, And they finally had a solid good year for Xbox by releasing all those games, and then we know what happened after that, and then we're here now and all that other stuff. So it's like, yeah, you got to keep going and finish. You got to do that for years.
It's a beautifully designed piece of hardware. It's very the hardware inside is excellent. It's a unique form. There's a lot going on that makes it an awesome traditional console, and it's just like it hasn't really worked out. So it would be a mistake to do it again.
I think going forward,
That's
this
reasonable.
is probably the only real viable path that makes sense for Microsoft to continue in the kind of console or console-like, whatever you want to call it, hardware business. But I do think like there are some really key questions about what Xbox is supposed to represent. Like on the so-called console side, it sounds to me a lot like the final form of this thing is just a PC with hardware back compat and an interface that is going to be common across many different kinds of PC devices. So what is the distinction behind those devices? Exactly
Smart.
How is Microsoft going to distinguish an Xbox PC or a PC that can run Xbox versus an Xbox device versus all these other devices they're branding as Xboxes? By the way, at a time when there is no Xbox interface on PC, there is nothing that remotely works like an Xbox on PC at the moment. There is nothing like that outside of maybe Steam, the Steam Big Picture mode, which is obviously not an Xbox. So I don't know exactly what Microsoft is doing with all this branding that suggests they're getting an Xbox category of device here. And I think that's what Laura Fryer is saying as well. The Xbox is historically meant a console experience, at least, at a stretch, a console-like experience. Microsoft is only delivering one of those at the moment, and it's called an Xbox Series X and S, right? It's not the PC.
But I think that's exactly the challenge here is they need to figure out how to make that work. They haven't built the
Correct.
interface yet.
That's what people want to know.
Least, we haven't really seen it beyond what's been.
Because Cody Eastwood has said it, it's like when you click on this, you click on your Xbox and whatever that dashboard is that they plan on updating. In the future, that's going to sync with the Xbox hardware PC. And because they sync, everything is across and that sits. And then people are like, yeah, but what about my official Xbox library though? You know what I mean? Tell me how you plan to do that with syncing with the PC without leaving my stuff behind, because I would have to buy the game twice and that's not play anywhere. That's what people want answers for. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Which is why the official Xbox handheld was attractive, because that's like, yeah, that's my handheld, my library that I'm carrying with me that I bought that's not playing anywhere. Like Monster Hunter Wilds, Mortal Kombat, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Because that's not first party and that's not on Game Pass and that's not playing anywhere. And that's all people want answers for, stuff like that.
In that ROG Ally X, but that's where the challenge is, right? How do you make Windows 11 or Windows into something that feels still like a proper game device that you'd use in your living room? Valve kind of figured.
Yeah, and having it still have plug and play without being too complicated for some of those console gamers that are not going to like all those problems. Like if there's driver issues and all this other stuff and it gets too complicated for them, they may feel frustrated and just move to whatever's left as a simple console, and that would be Xbox, not Xbox, I mean PlayStation and Nintendo, depending, you know what I mean? You never know. We're going to see, though. I think that they're working on all that, reducing the bloat down, and we're going to see. I don't know. What we know, though,
Wouldn't you say? Like Steam OS, is like this perfect little middle ground where it feels comfortably like, like a gaming system, but it's still an OS underneath. You can still access extra features. And I think Microsoft Xbox games will be designed for whatever interface they come up with, and games that are designed for Xbox certified devices could just say target that spec, right? Like make like a set of specs that sort of fit that Xbox I guess branding. And if you meet this, then you can run games at this level, kind of thing. And then if they open it up to stuff like Steam, it's more just like a free for all, in the same way I guess the Steam Deck is, in a way. We're just like, well, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. We just can't promise it'll work. Only stuff that's like certified Xbox would work or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think SteamOS is definitely the model for this kind of thing, but
Right.
I'd also think that SteamOS is a great experience. I'm not contesting that. I think Steam Deck is a terrific device. I think the new SteamOS devices are really interesting. I love Bazzlight, obviously, which is a very similar conceptually to SteamOS. But to me, SteamOS, it's still on the Windows side of things. It's still on the PC side of things. It's not the same as a console in my view. So if Microsoft wants to get up to the level of SteamOS, where SteamOS is now, go for it. If they can accomplish that, I think that'll be a great accomplishment. Maybe they'll move some.
Well, they did that test. Remember when they showed how the Steam Deck or the Steam OS was outperforming the Windows OS, and then they got right on that real quick, which is good because in turn that helped them reduce bloat. It's not necessarily bad. It's a blessing in disguise.
Xbox so-called consoles, Xbox PCs, but in terms of equaling that Xbox experience, I think they are going to let some people down with that.
Now, what if they can get backwards compatibility going on Windows? That would be interesting as well. Integrate that into the Xbox UI that's part of Windows, but it just runs all your library. Going back to original Xbox.
That's what they promised, have they not?
That's what they said they want to do.
That's what they've promised in the past, right? And delivering that would essentially mean they're bringing all this emulation stuff to the PC, which would be awesome.
It'd be cool at least if it was like 360,
at least,
OG Xbox, some of these consoles that are a little bit further back in time, where maybe the hardware grunt to run them on a generic PC box is mostly there, right?
That's right.
I think we've come a long way since the business update, where Phil Spencer sat down and told us that four games were going to be coming to PlayStation, and I just quickly looked that up. That was February last year.
Wow.
And, here we are in July in the next year, and suddenly, obviously the 4 games thing was, I don't know whether you can say it was disingenuous, but we knew for a fact there were a lot of games being developed for PlayStation at that time. That's the reason why all of those rumors kicked off that caused the 4 games business update podcast to happen at all.
I remember that.
And now we've kind of reached the point where Xbox hardware is going to be a thing, but it's going to be a very different thing to what we've traditionally expected. There will be backwards compatibility. Microsoft has confirmed that. There will be a next generation console, which, and again, we've got to hold them to this, the biggest technological leap ever in a console generation, I think, is what was suggested there. And I think they will do that. And I think they will do that by having, rather than having a traditional console in the console sense, it will be a kind of hybrid device that sits in the PC market as well. The chipset will work in, as a PC. It will be challenging the PC pre-built market, where the costs there are kind of eye-watering compared to console. So it will have terrific performance. It will be cheaper than PC pre-builds, but it will probably be a lot more expensive than you'd expect from a traditional console. That's my thought on it.
Like $800 or something.
And then you've got this AMD hookup, which basically ensures backwards compatibility on other AMD devices going forward on the PC space. So if that console is too expensive for you, then, if you've got some sort of AMD PC, it will probably be fine to run your backwards compatible library on that as well.
That makes sense.
I think there'll be a very different sense of what an Xbox piece of hardware actually is. And you're kind of seeing it with the ROG Xbox Ally X, where it is a bit, I think Laura Fryer addressed this, it's a bit of an odd proposition, isn't it? We're being told it's an Xbox, but if you were offered, John, the choice between a ROG Ally X that's called an Xbox and an actual first-party handheld made by Xbox
I'm going to take the handheld made by hardware.
Which one would you have?
the Xbox hardware team.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm thinking like Like, I would have preferred to see them extend what they're doing with Surface to Xbox. You know what I mean? Because those devices are beautifully made,
Yeah.
and they do have a feeling. Like, I feel like pursuing more like the Apple style in terms of the hardware stuff would have been more
Well,
interesting.
they might well be doing,
And maybe they
something
are
like
doing that,
that.
but yeah,
Possibly.
you're right. Like, when it's like, well, yeah, that's exactly.
You want to talk like luxury products and stuff like that? Sure.
You're right. Like, the ROG Ally X does not feel like an Xbox, despite what the slogan
No.
might say.
I mean, maybe they'll just call the Surface Xbox and call it a day. But I think with the ROG Ally, I think with the Xbox Ally, ROG Xbox Ally X, if I'm getting that moniker right, I think I'm actually quite interested in that device. I would be very interested in having that device, at least if they do iron out some of the front end issues. I think it could be a really cool PC handheld. But again, is that an Xbox? You know, people getting into this terminology, I certainly would really like a first party Xbox handheld.
No,
I don't
it's a
think that's
PC
really going to
handheld.
happen here. But I think in terms of the Xbox Ally, like in terms of what they're doing, I think it will probably be a success, at least in the physical form factor front. I think that Asus does a really terrific job with their hardware designs. Obviously,
Yeah, I
coming from
love
like
Asus.
a
I mean,
regular,
I have their laptops all the time.
non-Xbox Ally, an older Xbox, non-Xbox Ally. I think they do a really terrific job there, and I think if Microsoft does a good job with the front end, that'll be a good experience. But like, it's not a platform. It can't play older Xbox games, at least not at the moment, right? We'll have to see hopefully some improvement on that front before you can even really kind of put it in that same conversation, I feel like.
I'll be careful, Oliver. Some people believe that without realizing it's not an official Xbox kernel aspect. And I'm telling them that, dude, it's a PC experience. You could do whatever you could do on PC, but it's not the official Xbox experience. So that's why they have to work on unifying things.
As what people think of as an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain aspects to the strategy that I actually find quite exciting. For example, I suspect that this next generation console will be expensive, but it will be incredibly powerful, and it will be cheaper than an equivalent PC pre-built by quite some margin, simply by virtue of the fact that it's going to be one supplier effectively providing one chipset, and that's kind of it. So, the cost savings there are quite significant. I also like the idea that if the concept catches on, if it does capture some market share, you might actually see more agility in that space. Why wait for, 6 or 8 years for a new high-end SoC from Xbox?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Another one could come along in 3 years, for example, which would be entirely in keeping with the PC market. And then you've kind of like got a series of tiers of SoCs that slowly build up over time. And obviously there's going to be some kind of handheld equivalent, which we're kind of seeing an early view of it with the Asus ROG Ally X, but it is basically Strix Point. But there will be evolutions of that. So you've kind of like seeing things sort of evolving, in the stack evolving over time in two directions. I kind of like that idea, but it's a very PC-like strategy, and it's a very unconsole-like strategy as we know it. But then again, you look at the PlayStation 5 Professional costing $700, and you can see where the direction of travel is going in terms of console hardware.
Oh yeah,
it's getting more expensive. The other thing,
and they didn't even do the price jack up like they should over here. So that's what I mean. How is the next console not going to be like $800+ what Microsoft's trying to do? I don't see it, guys. It's going to be up there.
Of course, is the question as to, there have been questions as to whether people will be priced out of gaming as a result. But all I can really say about that is, for all of the criticisms RTX 40 series received for its pricing, it sold a huge amount of GPUs. I think it may have actually sold more than 10 series from back in the day, which, if so, is like phenomenal. It kind of proves that people
That's what I use.
okay with spending more money on gaming. But, it's not going to be, going back to Microsoft, it's not going to be a console as we know it, I don't think.
No.
Possibly in terms of sort of operation, it will be, but in terms of price points and stuff like that, there's a reason you're going to be able to run your Steam games on it. It basically means that the concept of a subsidized console is gone. That's surely going to happen.
Yes, because if you want to run any Steam game on the Xbox app, you have to pull up Steam and then play it off of Steam, but then it does it through the Xbox app. So the Xbox app is not actually playing anything. It's using Steam to do that. That's a PC aspect. You need to have Steam pulled up separately. The only way that can work, as I've been telling people on my videos, is that this is an Xbox PC. I don't believe in a traditional console anymore. It's over. You know what I mean? And now they just have to be like a OEM third-party model PC with the Xbox logo, and you'll carry over whatever. So I mean, hey, whatever works, and whatever can get y'all the most games. So let me know what you guys think. But anyways, remember, when you do that, you are moving to PC now. You're no longer a console gamer. That's just the way that it works. A lot of people have done that already. So yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing console warring going on and the confusion of certain communities when that happens. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Interesting video here. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day. I think this is pretty much the answer. We have it here. Later, y'all.